The second episode of The Penguin was released yesterday, and boy oh boy, things are only getting better. We started this new episode right away showing Oswald going to the Blackgate prison to visit the Maroney family, which apparently controls the prison because we see Sal Maroney in there, the boss of the family, but we also have the whole family in there as well, in the visitor section of the prison, hanging along Sal. And in this scene, we have two things that become very clear. One, that even though Sal is in prison, his wife is controlling all the business of the Maroneys outside. So apparently she will be an important character that Oswald will probably have to deal with. Anyway, the second thing is that Oswald is just a snake. This is why we love this character. He is playing the Maroneys at the same time that he's also playing the Falcones outside, coming up with different narratives to put both families in war against each other. And this is what's so interesting about this series, the fact that this character, he has his way with words. It's very cool to see how he manipulates all the people that he talks with, making very clear that his goal is that everybody kills each other and he becomes the boss of the whole thing. At the same time, we see Sofia Falcone having a great development in this episode because we start with her at the psychologist, and not only we get to see a little more of her trauma and craziness, but we get a hint that there is something between her and this doctor that we're gonna see more in the future. We still haven't seen why she was in Arkham, but we get to see some news and hints of the fact that she murdered some women in the past, and that's just like the comics, she is known as a psychopath called the Hangman. And that's why everybody around her seems to be afraid of her, even though she's technically rehabilitated. But the point is that even her family, or at least what's left of her family, doesn't want her near their business. So you see the brother of Salvatore Maroni coming into the family to take care of the business, Luca Falcone, and the guy makes sure to shove her aside so that she doesn't interfere with anything. And that is only increasing her inner anger, something that we can see very well in the eyes of the actress Kristen Milioti. She has these big eyes that are quite beautiful, but also she can express a lot of craziness through them. There are two great scenes in the episode that you can see how loony she is. One of them is in the funeral of Alberto Falcone, her brother that died in the last episode, murdered by the Penguin, and she just grabs this chunk of food from a table in the middle of the funeral and shoves down her throat. And I guess this has to do with a little bit of anxiety because of the way everybody looks at her, but at the same time, it's also a fuck you to everyone. And another scene is when a friend of the past, a woman, comes to her during the funeral, all friendly, talking about old memories and how they should travel again in the future, a girls' trip. But it's pretty clear that somebody sent this woman to her to make this invitation and get her out of town. And then the daughter of this woman comes to say hello to Sofia, and in a brilliant way, again using her eyes and a little bit of warning, she threatens the woman, leaving very clear that, be careful with your daughter, I might get her in the future. And the woman just runs away. I really like the performance of Kristen Milioti. I think she's doing a great job. I don't know about you, this is a little bit of tangent, but she has a bit of Anne Hathaway to her. So I guess if this was the Nolan universe, she would be half-sisters with Catwoman, because both of these characters are daughters of Salvatore Maroni. But anyway, this is just a tangent. Going back to Oz, we have this very cool action scene in the beginning of the episode where we have him transporting some drops, cargo. If you don't remember, drops is the main drug of Gotham City. And he has everything prepared to screw with the Falcones during the transportation. But Johnny Vitti, who is the guy who is taking care of the business of the Falcones since the first episode, asks him to be on the truck that will be attacked by the Maronis during the transportation, and Penguin almost falls on his own trap, so he has to find a smart but risky way to escape this trap and still fulfill his plan. So there are many scenes like this in the episode where, just like in the first one, Oz has to improvise in the last minute, and he escapes by a second of dying in the situation. In the end of the episode, we have a very tense scene where Sofia Falcone managed to get a guy from the Maroni's gang from the hospital after the whole action scene of the beginning, where there was a shootout in the transportation. The guy was almost killed during the action, and he was in the hospital, so he is in morphine. That means that she has to wait for him to wake up and become conscious to actually ask him about who was the one who planned the whole attack on the Drops transportation. So the guy knows that Oz was the one who did it. So things get more and more tense at every second because Oz has to run against the time to shut this guy up, or at least find a way to blame other person by the whole attack. He tries to frame Johnny Vitti, who he has pictures of the guy screwing with the wife of Luca Falcone. Not only that, but he asks his partner Vic, the Robin of Penguin in the series, to put some diamonds in the car of the guy so that he can fake the whole scenario that Johnny Vitti was paid to forge an attack in the transportation. By the way, this whole scene happens during the funeral of Alberto Falcone, so this whole last portion of the episode has many great scenes like the one I said about Sofia Falcone and the food, and this whole plot of Penguin trying to reach the guy who might blame him for the attack. Unfortunately, things don't go too well, and Vic, for just being a boy who's still an amateur in this whole forging and incriminating people business, gets caught during the action and can't place the diamonds inside the car of Vitti. So this is when we see the improvisational skills of the Penguin, because he wasn't going to kill the Maroni guy who was gonna tell Sofia Falcone about the whole plot in the transportation. He managed to reach the guy in the basement of the house where the whole funeral was taking place and told him to tell Sofia that Johnny Vitti was the one who planned the whole thing. But then when Vic failed to place the diamonds in Vitti's car to make apparent that he was paid to plan the whole thing, he decides to kill the Maroni guy with a knife, which is very cruel, by the way, because he needs an ace in a hole, which is the pictures of Vitti screwing with Falcone's wife. And this is the thing about the Penguin. He's a very charismatic character, but again, like I said, he's a snake, man. And this is great because we don't dislike him because of this. On the contrary, everybody around him is a piece of shit, so everybody deserves that he's fooling everybody off. But the whole thing leads to the tense scene that I mentioned, where Sofia discovers the guy dead in the basement and asks the bodyguards to close all the doors of the house during the funeral and puts everybody who participated in the transportation night grouped in the middle of the room, so that they are searched because one of them has a knife that was used to kill the guy. And this is where we have the most tension because Penguin has the knife in his pocket, so he needs to get rid of the knife very quickly. So he pretends to scuff a little with Johnny Vitti beside him, and during the whole thing, he puts the knife in the pocket of one of the bodyguards of Sofia Falcone. So when this knife is found in his pocket, Sofia immediately asks for a gun to kill the guy right away, even though he begs to her for not doing it, with her crazy eyes and all that stuff. And then Luca Falcone shoots the guy dead right there. Once again, making very clear to her, you don't decide things here, which makes her even more angry at the end of the episode. So realizing that she has no allies inside her own family is exactly in the end of the episode that she goes to Oz and invites him to an alliance against her own family, which is very cool, by the way. Of course, Oz agrees because that was his intention from the beginning. Plus, his answer is perfect. Let's dance. So this episode is great and really sets things in a direction that the plot can only become more and more interesting. There are other elements in the episode that were really nice, but a little less developed because we're gonna see more of these things in the future. We have a scene where we meet the girlfriend of Oswald, and he calls all the girls that work with her to his house. She even gets a girl to Vic so he can, I don't know, talk to her during the party. It doesn't show what happens next. But there's a very interesting dialogue between Vic and this girl during the conversation that she mentions that the place that he lives has become a no man's land. A clear reference to the comic book No Man's Land, where an earthquake hit Gotham and Batman has to save the population at the same time that the criminals start to fight between themselves to rule different areas of the city. Many people are saying that this may be a hint to what is the inspiration for the Batman 2 in terms of story and adaptation of No Man's Land, but I don't think so, to be honest. Because the comic has a very crucial element to the story, that is the Bat family, and how all of them work as a team to help Batman in this whole situation. And this Batman doesn't even have one Robin, so I don't think so. We also have a little more development in the character of Oz's mother. We see that she is suffering from early stages of dementia, which is very sad. But we have this very bittersweet scene where Oz dances with her to the sound of a music in the room, and she still demands of him to become this crime lord soon enough that will give her the life that she deserves. So I can see that this will become a traumatic event for Oz in this series. I'm pretty sure she's gonna die by the end of the thing, and this will cause some bad reaction in him. Plus, there is a scene in the episode where Oz tells a story about him and his mother to Sophia, but he mentions that she's dead. So I think it's clear that he doesn't want the mob to know that he has a mother and that she's still alive. So I'm pretty sure this is gonna play a role soon enough when Sophia discovers that his mother is alive. And to finish, we have little developments on Vic, just the scene that he fails to place the diamonds in Johnny Vitt's car, but we do have a fantastic scene in the end where Oz is told by the family to bury the two corpses of the guys that died during the funeral, the Maroni guy and Sophia's bodyguard, and he puts Vic to do the job, and in the end he forces the boy to lay down with the corpses to make him feel how it is to be dead if he fails again. And it's a great scene because the angry speech that the Penguin gives to Vic is so well written, and Colin Farrell delivers every word so perfectly. I mean, when this guy talks, you just listen. By the way, I love the way he talks. He has this great line during the speech. I have to get rid of the knife, I have to place the diamonds in the car. A lot of work for me, Vic. A lot of work. Is just perfect. And again, this is a relationship that I'm pretty sure that is gonna end in a tragic way as well between him and this boy, so we have to wait and see. But the whole episode was great. I give it a 9 out of 10. It wasn't better than the first one, but it was also fantastic. And what about you? What did you think of this episode of The Penguin? Are you liking the series? Comment below, and please, if you are liking the content of BATGUS, don't forget to leave your most beloved like in this video and your beautiful subscription in the channel, alright? See you in the next Bat video, and bye bye.